I was born as a boy, but inside and inside I feel like I'm a girl.
For transgendered Canadians, the fight against discrimination just got harder. The Senate has now approved amendments to a bill that aims to include gender identity under the Canadian Human Rights Act. Bill C-279 was introduced to protect the transgender community, but many now feel the amendments will do more harm than good. Joining us now is writer, poet, and trans activist Nicki Ward. Good to have you here, Nicki.
Thanks for having me.
So how do you see this as doing more harm than good?
Well, firstly, unfortunately, there's a technical issue at stake here in that the bill has been derailed. It was passed at the lower house, the House of Commons. When it got to the Senate, they basically stalled it. And now, as a result of these changes, it's going to be pushed back down to the lower house, which means effectively it kills the bill overall. Regrettably, in addition to the injury of having this bill taken off the table, and by the way, this bill isn't about washrooms, this is about employment, housing, education.
Shelters.
Shelters, indeed. Access to healthcare, I mean, really serious things. But in addition to the injury of it being sent down and basically, you know, struck off the schedule of events, there's an insult that's added to it in that one of the amendments is a repulsive suggestion to add segregation as an additional amendment to this bill. And what this would do would segregate trans people, not just from washrooms, but from other safe spaces like rape crisis centers, breast cancer screening, a number of gender-oriented services that would be segregated for trans people. Our community is frankly reeling from the shock of this.
Is it hard to remain positive? And we were talking a little bit before this interview. You're an activist. Mm-hmm. You talk to youth. You try to empower youth, others in the community. How hard is it now to say to kids, you know what, it's going to get better?
Well, it's impossible to say that, unfortunately. When I was saying earlier, I spoke to your producer when he asked me to come on. We're in the process right now of burying yet another trans person in our own community. Last year, I had invited me on before the Trans March. Of the people that I marched with last year, like 8 months ago, 5 of them are now dead.
There's a loss of hope.
Absolutely. I mean, it's a direct human cost to this. This isn't abstract or some kind of issue about morality. This is a life and death issue. And so telling children, or adults for that matter, that not only do they not have equal access to basic things like healthcare and housing, but they are to be segregated as second-class citizens. I mean, it's just appalling. Last night, I met with some of my colleagues and people who were also working in the field, and we had basically just a quiet moment together to try and regroup. How do we stay hopeful in this? It's not just, as I say, it adds deliberate insult to absolute injury. It's appalling.
We're going to continue to follow this story, Nicki. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks very much.